When you nod, I'll do it.
We have a quorum.
Right now? Good afternoon. The time is,
Oh, yes. Before you, I'll need to do swearing in prior to vote.
say that again.
Swearing in prior to vote.
Got it. We have a very exciting event today, and we will be swearing in some new members. I'm so excited to meet them. My name is Mickey Souza. I'm the vice chair of the AVA Community Advisory Committee. Welcome to everybody here in the room and online. And I'd like to start off. Would you like to read or would you like it?
Yes. So we're pleased to welcome our new CAC members, Indira Bakasoon, Peter Weiner, Pete Stevenson, and Davis Harper.
Let's have a round of applause for these brave new folks. Thank you.
If I could have each of you raise your right hand, and Pete Stevenson, if you could turn your camera on, please. Thank you. If I could have you raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, your name, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. I would like to give them a round of applause and big welcome. We are on the first steps of a new journey. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. With that,
Thank you. Member Landry. Member Hugh. Member Bakasoon. Member Weiner. Member Stevenson.
Yep, here.
Thank you. Member Swaminathan. Member Lakshman.
Yeah, I'm here.
Member Pacheco. Member Carr.
Here.
Thank you. Member Harper. Member Lutz. Chair Souza.
here, present.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us. Can everybody hear me all right? I hear no nays, so I'll begin. Good afternoon. And we would like to call the Community Advisory Committee for Monday, April 15th, 2024 to order. We are located at the Oakland Center at 1000 Broadway in Oakland, and there are several remote locations that have been provided in the agenda. The members now of the public wishing to make a comment can do so by either raising their hand function in Zoom or *9. If you're joining through telephone, clerk, would you be able to take that roll call? Oh, you already did roll call, so sorry. First of all, did we have public comment to start with? I know there was something that came in.
We would not, there was a written public comment
Okay,
from Jessica Tovar.
Yes.
That public comment is available on our website, and a physical copy is available on the table
Excellent.
you.
Thank you, Jessica, as always. We would like now to take any public comment from in the room or on Zoom.
Yes, we have 2 hands raised.
Great. So if you could give them 3 minutes to start.
Absolutely.
please.
Local Clean Energy Alliance, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
Hi, everyone. This is Jessica Tovar with the Local Clean Energy Alliance, also longtime coordinator of the East Bay Clean Power Alliance. And firstly, I want to say that earlier in the year, we submitted a letter asking AVA Community Energy staff and, community advisory and board members to fund resilience hubs in the AVA community territory that this agency serves. And we're asking for $15 million to go towards resilience hub program. Noting that we are definitely needing more resources for community-based organizations who are doing mutual aid and other more robust resilience efforts in the community. And that ranges from basic services to the unhoused, to planning for crisis situation, be it climate disaster, pandemic, wildfire smoke. The fact that some of the communities within the territory could use cooling centers, and also noting that there are some efforts also that address bringing, masks like N95 respirators to communities who wouldn't have access or don't, maybe don't even have the information in their own language, or for example, do-it-yourself air filtration for disabled folks who are homebound or wheelchair bound. We really need this kind of investment for community-based organizations who are doing this work within their communities, oftentimes very vulnerable communities, very scarce resources. The whole point of the local development business plan for this agency was to create more community benefits, starting with the most vulnerable communities within our territory. This is a way to address resilience needs in the community, as well as empower those efforts so that they can reach the people that need these services the most. I would implore you to the new members to get familiar with the local development business plan. It's this agency's roadmap of how to do clean energy benefits over time within the communities it serves, and that focus does not fall off the table. We need to be doing this work to build the infrastructure of clean energy and energy services that are overdue in our communities. Clean power to the people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Audrey Ichinose, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Audrey Ichinose, and I am a member of the East Bay Clean Power Alliance and also the statewide California Alliance for Community Energy. And I was taken by surprise by a rumor that maybe on Wednesday at the board meeting and late, that the issue of nuclear energy, nuclear generation, might again be up for discussion for the AVA this time. And I must say, I would hate to see that, see a rehashing of this discussion. Until we can get a handle on dealing with nuclear waste that is now spread all over the country, and the kinds of special hardships that nuclear procurement, uranium mining, has on Native American communities, I would I really think that we should avoid all discussion of nuclear generation for Ava. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There are no further hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. We are definitely considering everything, and we will make a note right now about more information regarding both information on taking advantage of the resiliency hubs and the building of them, as well as these nuclear generation potential that might be coming up on the horizon. With that, I'd like to call for the vote on the minutes. Is that?
I want to first ask if there were any questions, if there are any comments about the minutes.
Oh, yes, please. Anybody have any comments regarding, yes?
I don't know, Chair, if this is exactly appropriate, but I will make my comment. I am also very concerned about any proposal for a nuclear allocation for many of the reasons that Audrey said. I think that nuclear waste tends to be a big issue. And the potential detrimental effects to the environment are also very concerning to me. And I don't know if we can ask that this be placed on can we ask that this be placed on a future agenda item? I mean, as an action item for the
Yes,
CEC?
yes.
Because we have previously expressed a disapproval of nuclear allocation, and I think our board previously supported that position because we chose not to accept the PG&E allocation a couple of years back. So if we are going to revisit that decision, I think it needs to come to the Community Advisory Board again, in all due respect. And I would also request that we have an update on the $15 million request for the Resilience Hub.
Got it.
Thank you.
Yes, Peter.
Sorry, but as a new member, my question is, how did the nuclear issue arise? I thought that was settled. Has it arisen again in some way?
Yes, thank you.
Alex DeGiorgio, Public Engagement Manager for Community Energy. So the issue of the allocation resurfaces because the Diablo Canyon Nuclear Power Plant, its license has been extended. So for that reason, there's another opportunity to accept or consider or reject a nuclear allocation.
Just a comment in furtherance of what Audrey was saying, the latest National Superfund site is the Navajo Nation uranium mining debacle. So that has been a severe problem for the Navajo Nation.
Yes.
As a new member also, and having worked in Superfund, the Navajo, there were 460 sites, and people used the waste in building materials. I mean, it's such an environmental justice issue that it really does need to be thought about, and not just the Navajo nations. There's other nations that are dealing with this as well. So
This item is scheduled to be heard by the CAC at the May meeting.
And it will be heard by the board on Wednesday.
Thank you.
I should just clarify also, it'll come as an informational item and will come back as an action item. The CAC will hear it before the board takes a vote.
Oh, very good, very good.
Do we as new people provide reading material for the board? I mean, because I have tons of information on the Navajo Nation, if you,
The,
Would you like to answer, Alex? Or
You're certainly welcome to. I don't know that it's customary to do so, but
well, I just wondered, because I mean, on the EPA website, there's a whole, dedicated area to the Navajo Nation. But I'm just wondering, what's the best informational I mean, we provide information to the board, right? So I don't know how.
I
that
think,
works.
if I may,
Sure, please.
if
thank
you'd
Alex.
like it to be considered in time for the Wednesday board meeting, then it's just up for discussion. It's not up for action at the board on Wednesday, but you could submit as part of public comment.
We can wait if it's not.
Yeah, I want to remind everybody that for the most part, the board will be hearing this tomorrow, or Wednesday, sorry, Wednesday. And if you can attend, it's a public meeting, you can attend it. There will be a discussion on all of the action items, or not action items, informational items that will be before the board. And we can learn as much as possible that way ahead of time and get in front of this. So I encourage everybody to take a look at it. There's also recorded meetings and informational items in print or online that will be put out. Is that correct?
Thank you, Chair Souza.
Very good. Would love to hear the discussions about this. It's a very serious item. And has anybody else wanted to speak on anything that we've spoken about before, or they have concerns about? So we would like to take a vote now on the minutes.
for minutes.
Okay. We'd like to verify or eradicate ratify the minutes for this meeting. Can I hear a call?
We have a motion, yes.
Somebody? Shall I do it?
I'll move the minutes.
Thank you very much. Anybody like to second?
I wasn't there, but can I still second?
Anybody can second.
Okay,
Anybody's
I will
on the-
second.
Thank you. Very
Great,
good.
thank you. Great. Okay, thank you. Member Landry,
Yes.
Member Bakassin. Is that a yes? Thank you. Member Weiner. Thank you. Member Stevenson.
Yes.
Thank you. Member Lakshman.
Yes.
Member Carr.
Yes.
Member Harper. Yes. Thank you. Chair Souza.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Minutes are approved. Minutes are approved.
Okay, great. We have had our vote and it is pushed forward that, yes, the meetings are very good. Thank you. I'd like now to, did we want to address the question about what Cynthia had now, or just we'll do it later?
Oh, we can, yeah, we can mention it, absolutely.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes, there was an item that we were made aware of that that we just want to bring to the attention of the CAC, an item that will be heard at the on Wednesday's board meeting. The hold on one second, let me just make sure that I have the name. One second. The income, what is it? Hold on one second. So Member Landry asked about this item, and we just want to make sure that she is aware that the income graduated fixed charge item, which deals with with dynamic pricing, my apologies, will be heard at the board meeting on Wednesday, and we just want to make sure that the CAC is aware of that. It might be an item that you would wish to attend and listen to.
Thank you, Adrian. From what I remember, last week, there was a presentation on the, this income graduated fixed charge. It does have some association with sharing or shifting loads and the cost of the energy. So I think you wanted to hear some more about it. It was, I think more than one person wanted to hear more about it, but we'll deal with that at a later time. Thank you. With that, should I ask for is anybody wanting to talk online? Okay.
Is this the shifting loads? Is this the one that is similar to the supply-demand conversation? Is this the conversation that was the supply-demand conversation that was in the minutes?
I believe it does have something to do with supply and demand, and it's shifting loads, but it sounds like it's also having something to do with income, and it will be managed somehow, but we're not really entirely.
Okay, because that was
up
the
on that.
comment, was the, similar to Texas spot pricing? Is this the,
Texas?
what happened was it in 2021 when they had the freeze? And I researched it because it was really a big deal in Texas. The supply side, the Railroad Commission ended up trying to balance out the demand by raising the prices. And actually, I have a relative that lost their job because of that. And it talks about capping. You can go as negative as you want, but they cap it at $5,000 supposedly. But I just think, well, I don't know if it'd be the same in California, but in Texas, it was the Railroad Commission that made the decisions. And so it was sort of left a lot of people out, and a lot of people lost.
Right.
And what I can see is they haven't fixed it. So I hope that's not the same as we're talking about.
I don't have the knowledge of that. I don't know if anybody here can answer to.
We probably should refrain from discussing
Okay.
it. It's not agendized,
Okay.
but the information is available on the website. It is item 16 for this Wednesday's Board of Directors report. There is a recommendation there. There's a presentation and a staff memo that explains what the income graduated fixed charge is, the issues that are going to rise at the PUC, the various options the board will consider.
Okay. I saw it in the minutes. I didn't see the.
Oh, from last week,
Right.
yes,
Member
yes.
Lutz?
And we were considering putting it on for today, but we will revisit this.
Okay, good. 'Cause
Yes.
I think it's really important to revisit that. Because we'll have fires,
Absolutely.
et cetera, and we need to think about supply demand.
Very good.
And
Thank
Chair
you.
Susan, if I may, on the income graduated fixed charge, so that, just to be clear, that's on the PG&E side of the bill.
That's
And
right.
so this is kind of just like an FYI, because it affects our customers, but it's not us. It replaces some of the volumetric delivery charges with a fixed charge. But again, this is on PG&E side of the equation.
Well, not good, but okay.
I know what you mean.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good to clarify.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Alex, could
Yes.
you repeat yourself?
Oh, sure. So the income graduated fixed charge, it applies to the transmission and distribution side of the bill, so PG&E side of the bill. And we just want to make sure our customers are aware of it. It's going to replace what's normally a volumetric charge based on how much energy you use with a fixed charge.
So is there an impact on the Ava customers?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not something that Ava decides.
Right.
So it's just informational.
Right.
Okay.
It affects our customers because all our customers are PG&E customers, and this is PG&E related.
Okay. Are there any people online that have any questions? Any hands raised?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, great. So at this point, we have on our agenda the solar billing plan, tariff policy recommendations.
Yes, she is.
Okay. And is it going to be presented by Kelly? Is that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
So this is to approve a resolution adopting a solar billing plan, SBP, tariff policy. for
Hi,
solar
this
billing.
is Kelly Brazovic from at Ava Community Energy. Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Thank you.
All right, great. Can you don't have to see me, but can you?
We cannot see.
All right, you don't need to. It's fine. You can see the slides, and that's what's more important anyway. So good evening. As I said, my name is Kelly Brazovic. I'm the Senior Director of Account Services here at Ava Community Energy, and happy to discuss the solar billing plan policy proposal with you, our Community Advisory Committee, as well as other members of the public and Ava staff. My team has worked with others in our organization and industry to develop the policy proposal I'll review with you tonight. So we'll go through a little bit of an intro on what solar billing plan is, discuss the baseline version, our proposal, some fiscal impacts, and conclude with our recommendation. The board will be voting on this item on Wednesday. So we can go to the next slide, Adrian. Thanks so much. All right, so solar billing plan has gone by several different names since the CPUC, or California Public Utilities Commission, introduced the concept more than 3 years ago. First, it was called NEM 3.0, where NEM stands for Net Energy Metering. It was NEM 3.0 following NEM 1 and NEM 2. It's also been called the Net Billing Tariff, and now sort of the public-facing name that PG&E and the other investor-owned utilities are using is the Solar Billing Plan. During this presentation, I will likely refer to it as SBP or NBT. I'm trying to switch over to SBP solely, so please excuse me if you hear NBT, because this was Net Billing Tariff for a long time. So this tariff is, as I said, a successor to NEM 2.0. It would provide customers with a rate for their exports. That's the exported excess energy that a customer is generating that they're not using. Rather than receiving retail for that generation, customers would receive a new rate called the Energy Export Credit. This rate is better aligned with the value of on-site solar and other energy resources because it varies by the hour and the month. So spring and summer, sort of midday prices are very low. There's extra energy, particularly renewables, on the grid during sort of the 10 to 2 hours on, say, a sunny April day. While summer, late summer, like September at 7 p.m., you know that we've had some scorching days when everyone's air conditioning is just cooking along. So that's when prices are the highest. So who's eligible for this rate? So this applies to customers that have gone through the full 20 years of their legacy time on NEM 1.0 or eventually NEM 2.0 service, or a customer that has signed an interconnection agreement after April 2023. A year ago, in fact, if someone had signed completed their interconnection agreement April 16th, 2023, they would be placed on solar billing plan. Now, PG&E has had their operations for this program delayed. It was supposed to be released in December of last year, and now it is online just as of today. Non-residential customers will see solar billing plan available in June of this year. So this is because it's a different type of billing. We're looking at imports and exports differently rather than just netting everything out, right? It's not net energy metering anymore. We're not just netting. We're looking at the value of an import and the value of an export separately. Until PG&E's billing plan is ready, they've been billing all of their solar billing plan eligible customers on net energy metering. We've been doing the same, and we've been holding those customers both until PG&E is operational and until our own systems are operational as well. So we can go to the next slide, Adrian. Thanks so much. So this is what I'll call the baseline solar billing plan. This is what PG&E is doing. This is what the CPUC is requiring. So I see this as the baseline, the floor of what AVA Community Energy can do as well. So new voluntary residential, so in addition, excuse me, let me pause here. In addition to that energy export credit, right, which we said varies, it's a giant matrix of every month and every hour within that month. There's also a vintaged sort of bonus that some customers are eligible for, this, CPUC PG&E glide path. This is a vintaged adder, meaning if your system, let's say, was ready to go starting in 2024, and you voluntarily installed solar. So that's a tricky one here. So that means if you built a new home in California, you have to have solar on it today in order to meet Title 24, the Building Energy Code. So, but if you have an existing home and you add solar to it, that's a voluntary residential installation. Note, if you have a business and you add solar, that's not eligible for this adder. This is a vintaged system. So as I said, if you're a residential customer, you would get an extra 1.8 cents per kilowatt hour as an addition to the energy export credit. A low-income customer, that's a CARE or FARA customer, customers that are enrolled in those special programs, they would get an additional 7.2 cents on top of the energy export credit. So AVA will be mirroring these additional bonus credits. This value is provided to the customer for 9 years, and the value is locked based on that installation year. So starting in 2028, there is no additional glide path. But these adders, a customer that installed last year would see that 2.2 cents added to every exported kilowatt hour for a full 8 years. A low-income customer would see 9 cents added for 8 years. So let's go to the next slide. And this is, so now that's sort of the baseline, as I said. What is AVA going to do? So AVA does propose to implement solar billing plan, largely mirroring PG&E. We do this for several reasons, including reducing customer confusion, as well as installer confusion, right? If an installer has to know AVA's program and MCE's program and Clean Power SF's program, that's a nightmare for them. How are they ever going to sell any systems? So we really want to largely mirror PG&E's structure as well as that of our neighboring CCAs. We're just doing three differences. First is a solar and storage incentive program. And then the second and third are these export bonus credits. And we'll walk through those in the next slides. So next slide, please, Adrian. Thanks so much. All right, so the first is the Solar Plus Storage Incentive Program. Those of you eagle-eyed folks that have looked at the billing, or excuse me, the Board of Directors agenda for Wednesday saw that there is an item on the agenda about this paired solar plus storage program. This will provide customers incentives to really use their battery in such a way that benefits both AVA and the customer themselves by limiting their excess exports and using that daytime surplus during the higher priced evening hours. We're also looking at opportunities to help out with general load shifting and load modification here within AVA. So we're looking at a program opportunity to compensate customers both upfront for that battery as well as ongoing payments. And if we go to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the bonus credits. So remember I talked about that glide path, right? And that was only available to a select group of customers, right? These voluntary residential installations. Here, the recipients are all solar billing plan customers. So a customer that has newly installed solar, a customer that is transitioning from NEM 1.0, a residential customer, or commercial customer, everyone's eligible. And they're eligible for one of these offerings. They're either eligible for the for the residential Carefera bonus, and that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, an extra penny per kilowatt hour exported. So this is all of the time, all exports for residential Carefera. Our non-Carefera customers, that's our commercial and our residential sort of standard customer, get an extra quarter of a penny bonus credit for exports between 3 and 8 p.m. We want to encourage those exports when they're most valuable to AVA, to all AVA customers, really. This is when we see our peak load. This is when we see energy is the most expensive. So any exports during that time are most valuable to everyone in trying to keep everyone's prices lower. This is a constant credit, so it's not a vintaged credit. It's just a credit that everyone gets all the way through the end of 2028. The tariff that accompanies this is written to allow for modification starting in 2029. But if we go to the next slide here, there's a reason why we're doing that. And that's because I really hope that by the end of 2028, certainly before then, we'll learn a lot more about how customers are using this new plan, right? How are they reacting to solar billing plan? Are we seeing changes in solar installation size or more paired storage? We certainly hope to see more paired storage. How are customers changing their energy use behavior so that we can craft our bonus credits to both help our customers install solar plus storage, as well as help our non-solar customers, right? What can we do to help reduce rates for everyone, to increase grid stability for everyone? Is there some sort of a bonus credit structure that we can put into place that will help with those needs as well? So let's go to the next slide. We've got a couple eye charts to follow. Here we've got financial impacts. So these are credits for exports. So now at the top in blue, you've got your kind of four different customer types, right? You have your Carefera customer with a new voluntary installation. So this customer is eligible for, based on this math, the 2024 glide path figure plus is able to get the glide path. The non-Carefera new voluntary installation is also eligible for that glide path. The two columns to the right, the transitioning or required installs, remember, they're not eligible for the glide path. So this base solar billing plan row that we see across the second row here in white, that's baseline. This is what you would get if you were a PG&E customer or an AVA customer. Here's how much your exports would be worth over a 12-month period. The next row down is the solar billing plan plus the AVA bonus credit. So plus whatever structure, whatever we're able to put in place here, that's that 1 penny per kilowatt hour for Carafera customers, or 1/4 of a penny for our peak hours for non-Carafera customers. So you see here, we're looking at another $20 annually for our non-Carafera customers, an additional $40 a year annually for our Carafera customers. And as noted here, this is exclusive of battery storage or any of our battery storage incentives as well. This is just for a regular solar only customer. If we go to the next slide, this is where, again, we're comparing that base solar billing plan to AVA's solar billing plan with our bonus credit structure. And here I'm looking out from 2024 out to 2028. Now, this is just the credits we're providing to exports. So this is independent of other aspects of customers' bills. This is just what we're paying out for exports. And you can see here that that as an organization, these additional credits that we are offering would be an additional $8.4 million just of credits over the course of the next 5 years. That's the difference between the 61.6 million that we have modeled we would be paying out versus the 70 million. The customers that are included in this chart are those customers that are transitioning from NEM 1.0 all the way, and customers that we anticipate will be new installs. I'll say here, these numbers may, depending on your perspective, they may look a little bit small, and that's because the bulk of our customers are some 75,000 NEM customers today aren't actually eligible to transition to solar billing plan until mid 2030s. So like 2035 is when we see something along the order of 30,000 plus customers on this new plan that have come over from the NEM billing plan. So that's why you do see that growth over time as well as more customers become eligible. All right, let's go to the next slide. So here's our recommendations, just a quick review. We recommend that we implement the solar billing plan as discussed with a capacity-based battery storage program and a 5-year-long AVA bonus credit available to all solar billing plan customers, with a credit for Carafera customers that is unique, and then a non-Carafera credit that is applied between 3 and 8 p.m. And on the next and closing slide, following our hopeful approval, staff will begin to implement billing operations for the solar billing plan with an expected release date of summer 2024. We anticipate aligning this with the release of the non-residential plan from PG&E, allowing our residential customers just a couple extra months on NEM. And we'll be developing collateral to share with our customers, including direct-to-customer email pieces, updating our frequently asked questions and our web pages, as well as training our customer service representatives so that they're able to answer questions for customers. It is a bit of a confusing billing plan. I think we will benefit by waiting a couple of months for PG&E to go through some of these growing pains on their own before we transition. I think we'll learn a lot from what's going on with PG&E, as well as some of our other neighboring CCAs. And that closes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. So we would like to take any questions.
We have one hand raised. We'll take public comment now. Would you like to clarify?
Oh, yes.
Questions?
Do we have anybody who would like to ask a question? And would you give them 3 minutes?
Sure.
Thank you.
Jimlets, you recognize for 3 minutes.
Hello. Hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. This is a bunch of questions, but it's a recommendation to not approve this. I'm I'm concerned that that AVA's community energy is copying PG&E, and I and I have a big question on why that is. Both the state and AVA have renewable energy goals, and local.
Sorry.
Hello?
I think I hit mute or something.
We can hear you.
Okay, so this seems like it's a copying of. Oh, I'm Jim Lutz. I'm a member of the CA Community Advisory Committee. I'm traveling, so I wasn't able to notice, so I can't vote or participate in the meeting except as public comment. It's copying what PG&E, largely copying what PG&E is doing. It doesn't seem to be based on what's the best way to reach AVA's community energy's renewable energy goals. Doesn't seem like it aligns with state goals to promote as much solar generation and storage as possible. I don't see in this presentation any accounting of why the numbers were chosen the way they were and why they ramp down the way they do. And from previous NEM discussions, which I didn't participate in, but listened a lot on, there were concerns that the avoided cost calculator that PG&E is using for its benefits does not account for the many benefits of rooftop solar, the delay of expansion of transmission, the reduction of congestion in certain circuits on the board. So, and then why is it net billing if somebody can produce a lot more solar, especially at times when it's good for AVA and with storage? Why aren't we paying them to do that and keep the money in territory instead of sending it out? And it seems, I understand that local rooftop solar is always going to be more expensive than solar in the desert if you don't count the transmission costs. So the transmission costs should not be included in rooftop solar.
Thank you.
So.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. I think we got your message. But I'd like to do we want to give Kelly a response, a time for response, please? Kelly?
Sure. Jim Lutz had quite a bit to say there. Is there any part in particular that you'd like me to respond to? Any particular questions of interest?
Maybe Jim would like a little clarification on, first of all, is this built on NEM, was it 3 that that is going into effect?
It's colloquially known as NEM 3. Folks in the industry tend to call it that just because it is the next iteration of rooftop solar billing. So that's what on the street you might hear it that if a solar installer comes to your house, they might call it NEM 3. Yeah.
Well, he mentioned that there was this vertical energy goal, and that it doesn't really pattern after our, or seem to encourage people to add solar or on their rooftops. So how is this, how would this, could you answer that? Could you answer how this would be beneficial on top of what PG&E is doing?
How would this be beneficial on top of what? How would Ava's version of solar billing plan be better for customers than PG&E's plan?
That may not be what Jim was saying.
Okay,
I think, yes, I think he felt that this was yet another burden on people who are thinking about installing solar. So how would this benefit them and us who are trying to make a decision on installing solar on their rooftops?
yeah, that is an interesting question, and there are different ways to look at this one. I'll provide one counterpoint to that, which is that solar customers also, there are some studies that show that customers with rooftop solar actually pay less than they should for some of those, so let's say the distribution and transmission costs, then really they ought to, because they are still connected to the grid, they are still using the grid. And so this solar billing plan is an effort to correctly pay customers for what their actual exports are worth. An export in the middle of the day, when quite frankly most customers are exporting, is not worth that much to Ava, because that's when our resources, our large scale solar resources, are also quite active. And so it is worth less, fewer dollars per kilowatt hour. So this is an attempt to sort of right that and encourage customers to, right size their solar, use the solar that they are making, because if you're using it, it's retail. It's, you're getting retail rate for every kilowatt hour of energy that you are using. So you're saving yourself money. It just isn't an opportunity to also make money. But there are countless other ways to look at that as well. I do understand that, if we're looking at how do we continue the proliferation of rooftop solar, you could make the argument that this, doesn't necessarily help out with that, but it does help out in encouraging battery storage, which is what ultimately will help everyone else on the grid, right? Because that helps to flatten energy, the load, and it helps to decrease those spikes in the evening when everyone's systems have stopped producing. And it looks like JP has his hand up. He has.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Would you like to?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, hi, everybody, JP Ross, Vice President of Local Development at AVA. And I did just want to mention that it didn't make it onto this agenda, but taking to the board on Wednesday, we are also bringing concurrently a proposal for a solar and battery incentive program that will incentivize the battery installation concurrent with solar installations. To Kelly's point, trying to encourage solar and batteries because the use of batteries can really help with grid stability. So that program is close to $30 million of incentives for solar and paired batteries that will be concurrent to this current proposal for instituting solar billing plan. So we wanted to bring those two things together to answer the question, how are we supporting the installation of more solar? And so just want to make sure we're that the Community Advisory Committee is aware of that, that we're bringing these two items to the board concurrently with some of those questions in mind.
Okay. Can we take a question in the room? Yes, thank you. Peter, please.
I think this is the item where we received a public comment in writing. Is this the one? And I think one of the things that I got out of that advocacy piece was that it may be difficult for lower income people to buy batteries in order to receive that extra incentive. And then when I was thinking about it, somebody else I think, who's not in the room, said that it is less expensive to buy utility scale solar rather than rooftop. It's less expensive to produce and to generate. But one of the things that we haven't talked about is whether to spend money on incentivizing individuals to have batteries, which costs them money and is not necessarily equitable, versus buying utility scale power with storage so that everybody receives that storage advantage at the same time. If that's less expensive, that might be better for everybody and not have the equity issues. So I'm wondering why you're going in the direction of incentivizing individual battery storage, which only accrues to the benefit of that person, rather than buying system storage.
So I'll answer that a little bit, but as we will continue to bring to the board through our procurement items, you'll see that almost all of our new renewable procurements also come with some storage, and there's also standalone storage that the procurement team is procuring as well. And so that is certainly part of the procurement strategy. It's not necessarily an either or, but from a local perspective, there is more access to local distributed storage. And so that's why the agency is looking to promote both types of storage.
Thank you. Is anybody else online with their hands raised?
Absolutely.
Can we get the people online? Is there anybody waiting for us?
There's 2 hands raised for public
There's 2
comment.
hands raised.
Great, thank you. 3 hands raised. Audrey Ichinose, recognized for 3 minutes.
Thanks very much. This is such a complicated issue for all of us, especially for the non-professionals among us. I was struck by what Kelly said at the end of her presentation, and that was that it would be good to see how PG&E's rollout, of their own billing program occurs in the next couple of months. So I do not see what the hurry is to take any action on it at the next board meeting, especially. So why don't we wait and see what happens? Secondly, I wanted to propose that, incentivizing the acquiring of solar and storage, as I think one of the CAC members just pointed out, really just doesn't, I would say, pardon my phrasing of this, it just doesn't make sense for people who are pretty low income. And I would rather favor something that will come up with the healthy communities, that let's give away, let's subsidize, let's buy solar and storage for poorer folk. And I know it raises all sorts of questions of who would qualify and who would get chosen. But if the healthy communities installation of induction stoves can start and work, maybe we can do something similar with rooftop solar and storage. So that, it seems like a radical idea, and I guess it is. But there seems to be something in Judeo-Christian culture that makes it impossible for us to think of giving poor folks for things, some assets that they have to in some way earn it, or we cannot do anything beyond incentivizing. But, and I don't mean to be disruptive or, radical, but we should really, it's not realistic to think that low-income folks are going to be swayed by all of these sort of very hard to calculate incentives. Thank you very much for taking my comments.
Thank you. Richard Esteves, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
Am I open now? All right, let's try this.
Great, we can hear you. You're recognized for 3 minutes.
Hello? Am I trying it now?
Yes, you are.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and I apologize. My name is Richard Esteves. I'm Chair of Quality Conservation Services. I just wanted to mention a couple of things in response to some of the questions here. First, the very intelligent question about why is it better to have it rooftop rather than distant? The issue is that for the customer, if the customer uses any PG&E line whatsoever to get that kilowatt hour to their home, they get charged for the entire PG&E system. So even if you have a community solar that's directly across the street and they hook a line up to you, you are still paying in their rates, which comprises about 90% of their rates, for the transmission and distribution system. Because don't forget, AVA is the one that's supplying all the energy. They're just supplying the delivery system. So if you're involved with the delivery system, you're paying for all of it. The question about NEM 3, and more important, the effort to shift more cost into the basic rate, I think it affects all people that are interested in energy efficiency, because what it does is it reduces the incentive, the reward someone gets from reducing their energy. It reduces the benefits of energy conservation of going solar. Because all of a sudden, where before you were getting the benefit of all the energy savings, now you're only going to get the benefit of part of it, because part of it is stuck in a much higher, I'm not going to say very high, that's in a much higher base rate, which everyone has to pay regardless of how much energy they're using. So even though it's revenue neutral for the average person, those that are making an effort to reduce their energy use, or that have done so or will do so, will suffer under that system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard.
Local Clean Energy Alliance, you recognized for 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Jessica Tovar again with Local Clean Energy Alliance and East Bay Clean Power Alliance. And we submitted the letter earlier today wanting to highlight that the money that's being used for adders for low income, that 8.4 million would be better spent as a direct install investment, noting that most low income people actually don't have solar on site on their homes, much less battery storage, and recognizing that most folks would like to have access. It would be great if this agency would use those resources to actually help people get the solar that they need or the batteries that they need for those that have existing solar systems, specifically low income people. And we referenced in the letter the SOMA program. SOMA is Solar on Multi-Affordable Affordable Housing. And so, a program like that means that they would have solar, but they wouldn't have battery storage. It would be great to incent actually funding the storage for those systems And then that paves the way to develop a microgrid. We would like to see more of this infrastructure, especially in the context of, we need to be producing local clean energy. I mean, that is, when it's local in your community, that's when it's actually clean, not when it's like, contracted from far away. And then the second point is moving into this transition of electrified buildings. We're going to need to power those actual new appliances in the home if we're going to be doing fuel switching from gas to electric. And so you're going to need the power source, and it should be powered by local clean energy. Otherwise, we're exacerbating further environmental injustice. So we recommend that 8.4 million actually be moved to a direct install program, so that the money does not just sit unallocated because poor people don't have solar on their roof or don't have, storage. And so we need to meet people where they're at. We said this the last time that this conversation came up. And what I see time and time again by agencies is this beautiful incentive program that is unattainable by the poorest and most vulnerable people within your territory. Clean power to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further hands raised at this time.
Great. So can we go back to?
I was looking at the figure 4 in the presentation here in the handout.
Yes, it is.
And I was just wondering if the number of NEMS customers, you said 75,000 will be added in 20 years, I guess.
Can you speak a little louder, please?
So you said 75,000 people will be added, like when the 20-year at NEMS, 2 people are, I guess, outside their time limit. But I'm looking at the chart here on figure 1, and is it true that there's 590? So this is in the handout that Kelly, staff report item 17. It was figure 1, and it's a chart of AVA customers transition dates from NEM 1 and NEM 2 to solar billing plan. I don't think you showed it, but it's in this handout.
Yeah, I can speak to that.
Is that true? Is it the number is 593 people that are on NEMs now?
No, so that's the number of people that are on NEM 1 now that installed 20 years ago. So those are customers that would have installed in 2004 or earlier. So they've received 20 years on net energy metering 1.0, and now they're able to transition. They're eligible to transition since their legacy period is up.
Okay, and that was my question about that is, so is the number of people that are on NEMs now, NEMs 1 and 2, is it a significant number in the AVA territory that it would make that much of a difference? I mean, that's where the 8.4 million comes from, but
So, oh, go ahead.
For PG&E, it's got to be a much bigger number. So I see why PG&E would want that, but is it as beneficial for the AVA territory as it is for PG&E? I guess I'm asking for the comparative value in terms of the need to do this now versus in 5 years.
So I heard a couple of questions. So about 11% of our customers have solar today. The chart that you see there, it's a cumulative chart of the number of customers that would be transitioning from NEM 1 or 2 over to solar billing plan. So that's why when you get up to 2042, that's why you see that number is at 63,000, because that's how many customers we have on NEM today. That's the total, right? So there are no more, until we have our new communities joining, we don't have any additional NEM customers. So that's why in 2042, all of those customers would be on solar billing plan. So I think that was one of your questions. It is a little bit of a confusing chart. I'll give you that it's a cumulative transition. I don't know the percentage of PG&E customers that have solar. We have a pretty high percentage at over 10%. And then you had one other question that might have been related to this chart that maybe, oh, you asked about changing in 5 years. And that, certainly everything is, all these are available. However, I think it just increases customer confusion when they see one type of billing on the delivery page of their bill and a different type of billing on the generation page of their bill, also making it a little bit more challenging for the sales folks and technicians that are out there trying to discuss these two, well, your delivery would be on this bill, on this part kind of bill, and your generation will be on this kind of bill, but maybe for some period of time, we don't know. It's a lot easier to sell a system when you have consistency and also what the plan is. So making this change now, I think just helps everyone continue to promote installs.
Well, thank you. We have no more, we do have a question. Steve, right?
It's Davis.
Sorry.
That's all
Davis.
good. I had a quick question about whether the analysis includes Stockton and Lathrop territories, or if this is just the existing service area, just as a first question.
Yeah, thanks for separating your questions out. It's a lot easier for me. So no, this is independent of Stockton and Lathrop.
So it's not?
We have not included Stockton and Lathrop in this presentation, no.
Okay, and so will you be really reevaluating next year start of service, or is there a plan for incorporating them into the analysis?
Yeah, we'll include them. The charts will look a little different, obviously, when we include Stockton and Lathrop.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question was for you, JP. You'd mentioned that the solar and storage program being designed currently is being taken in lockstep with some of the same considerations around the solar billing plan. And I'm just wondering why one's an action item and one's an info item. Wouldn't it make more sense to potentially vote on both of those at the same time?
Sure. The reason that one is an action item and one is an informational item is that the board had already allocated the budget from the 2024 budget surplus and asked us to develop a solar and storage program to use those funds. So we'd already been kind of granted the funding to run that program. So we're giving the board an update on.
Okay, that makes sense.
I have
Very good.
another question.
Okay.
So why, kind of the same line, why was the care and FERS included with the residential and other? Why wasn't it a separate consideration? So that the question from the comments from local clean energy about low-income people and having the money go towards install, could that be separated in the way this is done?
It sounds like it's another program, is
It's
that
another
right?
program, so it's not.
So this is one program. If there's going to be incentives for solar and battery, there may be additional. Is that?
Yeah, there's a separate program for the incentives for solar and storage battery installation. So that'll be going to the board on Wednesday.
And that combines the low-income piece as well.
There will be a low-income element that will be much higher incentives for low-income Care for Air customers and resilience hubs. Yes.
And there's no way at this point to separate them so that you respond to this comment, to recommend to the board to look at a program that installs solar for low-income people, and then for businesses and residential, it gets just residential, that we go forward with the proposed plan.
Well, that's a letter that's been submitted by the
Right.
public, so
Right.
we'll take that
Okay.
recommendation, but we're not going to immediately respond to that with a proposed program that implements those goals. We're waiting to hear the board's
Okay. It sounds
decision
like-
on the action item that's been proposed for the solar billing plan.
So in kind of framing this, from what I see, is that there is additional incentive beyond what PG&E will pay for rates for solar produced on roofs. And Ava Community Energy is going to enhance those rates that are paid for production from solar. Is that correct? Kelly, thank you.
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Are there any more questions?
Are there no hands raised?
Do I hear any other further actions for this particular item? Would anybody like to take an action, or shall we close this subject?
I have a question. On things like this, it's going to be before the board on Wednesday, right?
That's correct.
For action, correct?
For action. This is an
And
action item.
we've been requested, I think, by one of our citizens to recommend that this item be delayed.
So you could make a motion.
So it seems to me that we can just not act at all, but it seems to me more responsive, either to say, well, no, we don't agree, that the explanation's been fine, or we do agree. And I mean, I'm new to this, but to me, this is the intersection of money and policy. It's how do you use the money you have? And there are questions being raised about whether it's being used in a way that fosters more clean energy or helps people who don't have money. Obviously, giving folks more incentive to have solar who are low income clearly is, with at least on the equity front, works. If we're giving more money and incentive to people who aren't low income, assuming upper income people in, I don't know, Piedmont or something, who already have solar and don't need the money, then it's a question of, is this a policy that, I mean, it becomes both policy and political in a way, and it's just money. So I don't know the answer to all that, but I just throw it up open. It just seems to me that there are a number of questions still.
Well, there are a lot of questions. Many people, even me, who made my decision years ago to put solar on my roof, was it worth it? I had many different reasons for doing that. I'm a conservationist and wanted to make that decision based on that on top of the monetary aspect. So any incentives that may come about now or in the future, they certainly can involve finance. So we're bringing this now as an informational item. If anybody would like to make a motion, say, to support or to bring our support or dissent at this point, or we can move on to the next item.
Can I ask one more clarifying question?
Sure.
Coming back to the kind of the two programs dancing together a little bit, I think I'd feel a little bit better about having a position if I understood what the solar and storage program, if it is just specifically just a battery storage program, or if there's considerations around low-income households being able to access incentives for solar, for upfront costs of installing solar as well. I think I guess where the line of questioning is coming from is that 1 cent per kilowatt hour of a bonus for Fair customers seems really low. And I guess I just am trying to understand. I think a lot of things about this make sense. I think like the peak bonus credit makes sense. I'm just trying to understand for those customers that don't have solar yet, how are we considering those people? And especially folks that have a lot of barriers just before even being able to adopt solar in the first place that are living in frankly pretty dilapidated housing conditions. Speaking for a lot of folks from out where I'm at. So that's kind of where my line of thought is. And if we're missing key pieces of information, like please fill us in, because I think, yeah.
Very, very good questions. And we want to install, we want to make this happen for everyone. And that's what we're here for, is to take a limited resource and to see that it's used in the right way. And that's why we're here. So your opinion is very important, as well as anybody who is a member of our public. And that's why if you have any comments or you have any ideas for improvements, this is where we're going to be. This is the nexus for it.
So is this where we make a motion?
Is this what?
I mean, so I guess, no, I'm new, so I don't even know if I should do it this way, but I don't want to stop what you're doing because I see a lot of work has gone into this. And if it's possible to put on the agenda in the future, or wherever the appropriate time is, the suggestion from the comments that we somehow find a way to directly fund low-income people to have solar, I think I would like to motion that we do that, because we've been going a long time waiting for low-income people to get their solar, and I'm not seeing that happening. And so I think it's wonderful. Everything here was really well thought through, and so there's no, I don't mean to be, but I also feel like PG&E has a huge area, the whole state, or whole Northern California, and that we're local and we should try to enforce, or, encourage, I guess is the word, people to do the best they can in our area. So I feel like if we can make a motion to pursue this, and I know you're.
Yeah, and I think Alex has something to offer.
Yeah, just as a procedural point of order Peter, to your question, the chair of the CAC sits on the board during board meetings as a non-voting member, and they report out what's discussed in these meetings. And so the chair can express to the board in that setting what was discussed about and what the opinions were. If your committee would like to take a vote so that the chair can then report a vote was taken and here's the outcome of the vote, it doesn't have any binding impact, but it would be, cleared then what the majority of the committee felt. Just as a procedural matter, that's something to consider.
Thank you, Alex. And
I think I'm in.
oh, yes, go ahead, Cynthia.
It's good here. I'm on the same. So, I want to be clear about the impact on the low-income customers and their ability to access the same incentives that other folks are able to access. So I need more information. I understand that Kelly's done a good job, but equity is very important. I don't know if we can ask that, do we have the ability to ask that this decision be postponed until we get information back at the next meeting?
I believe the board has the ability to determine whether or not it goes forward. But what I would suggest is maybe some clarification for us so that we can understand better this new program. It is fairly new. First I've heard of it. In some ways it's good and it's exciting. What I would like to see is more numbers in regards to how it would compare with some of the other net metering programs in the past. Would this AVA Community Energy Boost help help people move over the hump as far as making decisions on installing solar. So if I could ask, perhaps Kelly, if you could give us a chart that would make it very clear as far as a comparison on how this would help us or help ratepayers to make decisions on solar and also clarify how this is better than what we were looking at with PG&E. I know you've done some beautiful charts, and so maybe we just need to digest them. But if you could help us out, Kelly, perhaps with a little bit of clarification on the differences between older NEM structure and this particular structure. I don't know if it compares or not. But.
Yes, and I do think there is some of that in the solar and storage incentive program discussion that will be happening on Wednesday. Let me see if I think that we presented this information at an earlier board meeting. I'll have to take a look at that to see what's already been presented to the board and executive committee. JP may have a better memory than me on this.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I think we should be thinking about the solar billing program as lessening the impact of the phasing out of net metering 2.0 to existing customers. And then for new customers contemplating installing solar and storage is the solar incentive program that we unfortunately didn't make it onto this agenda, but will be heard by the board on Wednesday. And that is, again, about $30 million, $28 million of incentives for new solar and storage adoption. So I think thinking about it in that way of kind of like how do we lessen the impact to existing solar customers? Okay. That's what solar billing plan does. It's better than what would have happened under NEM 2. So we're trying to lessen that impact. For new customers, there's healthy incentives, about $1,250 for a market rate customer, $10,000 for a care customer who's installing a new solar system with a battery.
Wow.
So it's a healthy incentive for low-income customers. It's a good incentive for for non-low-income customers. And then there's an ongoing incentive as long as that battery continues to participate. There's an ongoing incentive. So for it's $2,800 over the course of 5 years for some customers, and then for low-income customers, it's quite a bit more than that, like 11,440, something like that. So there's a lot more information in the board. It didn't make it on the agenda, but I think it'll be helpful to think about it maybe in that way.
Thank you so much, JP. Yes, Peter.
Well, you have the unfortunate problem of having a lot of new members here today.
Yeah.
So we're not as steeped in all of this. But what I may have misinterpreted the letter we got, but the letter that we got asked the board or us to recommend to the board to delay. And otherwise, it seems to me they're going to allocate $15–30 million on Wednesday. And as I read it, and I'm going to try to characterize it neutrally, that the incentives that are there for low-income customers in this program, I think the allegation was that they weren't sufficient to really move the needle, and it would be better to spend money to subsidize, I think it was 500 new solar customers completely, because they would then be on the system. I don't know that that's correct, but it does seem to me that you all might have modeled this in some way or other as to how much it takes. I know when net metering first started, that the buzzword in the rooftop solar industry was, if we can't tell people their rates are going down by 10% or more, we don't have any customers. You can't say it's equal, you can't say it's 5%. This is a market thing. They said it had to be 10%. So if that's true, then if we're showing people how to lower things by 10% and giving them enough subsidy to put in the solar system, great. It was a question, a factual question is, how do you model this? Do you have information already as to what works and doesn't work? And what I would ask is that perhaps at the board meeting, or if it's delayed further on, that staff provide some answers to the letter we received in terms of what it was alleging would work better. Because it sounded to me like on a policy basis, everybody wanted to achieve the same thing, which was something that was helping lower income people get on solar. But what would work is what I thought was in question. And I didn't see an answer. So I'm just wondering whether you or Kelly can give an answer to that off the cuff to what was in the letter, or at a future time, or whatever.
You are familiar with the new net metering plan, right?
Yeah, that it's less.
Yeah.
That you're getting the wholesale rate instead of
Right.
the retail rate. Yes,
That
I
is
am.
right.
And that's been alleged to be equitable because lower income people were paying the cost of what higher income people were getting.
And if I were on the board for the PUC, that would be a very long discussion with me. So.
I understand. I
Right?
just,
So.
I know what the rationale.
And so this is in some way, some sort of a mitigation.
Understood.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
Do we have a, I didn't see you come in. Oh, you were there? Okay, never mind.
But it does seem like we'd like to see the incentive.
Oh,
That will be on the board agenda on Wednesday night.
all right.
We,
So,
we can't bring a new item and put it onto this agenda because it hasn't been publicly noticed. So what's on the agenda is kind of on the agenda. So there will be more information on Wednesday night at the board meeting.
Oh, that's an information.
Yes.
Oh, it's the information.
okay, so if there are no motions, I'd like to close this item. Okay, so we'll move on with, the next item, which is this the Dan Bertoldi electrification?
This is our, so I'm JP Ross. I'll be presenting on this item tonight for the recommendation. It's an action item for the board on Wednesday night, recommending that they authorize the chief executive officer to enter into an agreement with Franklin Energy Services to support our Healthy Communities initiative. So I will be speaking on this tonight. Thank you, Adrian. So for the advisory committee, just a review. We've been working on this program and planning to roll this out for a while. So putting the pieces in place, if you will. A bit of a reminder and something new for new committee members is the description of our Healthy Communities program and pilot. So right now we're working on the pilot implementation phase on the left. The goal of the pilot is to complete the installation of 200 induction stove retrofits into lower income households, and then study the air quality impacts and the air quality changes with air quality monitoring systems that will be installed in these homes prior to the switching of the gas stove for the electric stove. And so the reasons for the pilot is to establish kind of an effective program recruitment and enrollment process, as well as streamline and simplify the installation and switching of gas for induction, so that we can kind of determine what are the costs, what are the complexities, how do we then look to build on this program for a larger program enrollment, which would be somewhere around 10 times that amount. So going from 200 installations to 2,000. And the ideal is that we would also then bring in a healthcare partner who would help to identify some of the health outcomes of the improvement associated with the improvement of indoor air quality, to then publish like a health study of the impacts to those families. We'd be looking to enroll families with children and household members who have pulmonary disease like asthma. So the action item tonight is to approve our contract with an installation contractor and implementer who would help us deliver these services to customers. So if we go to the next slide, please. So the contract is with an installation services provider we issued an RFP for this purpose. The RFP was both open to implementers who work with contractors as well as individual contractors themselves. We had a kind of a both-and policy. We wanted to solicit proposals from both types of bidders. The best proposal we got was from Franklin Energy Services as the winning bidder. So the contract proposal would be for $1.5 million to support the pilot phase of this program, and they have agreed to pay our prevailing wage requirements, as well as to complete kind of some of the apprentice and journeyman tracking of our contractors. And this would be for a 3-year term, but we're expecting and planning for this pilot phase to be shorter than that, more like a year, to get these first 200 installed. Next slide, please. So about Franklin, they are a program implementer with relevant experience. They are also doing some work for some of our other CCA agencies, including a direct install program for electrification across the way with MCE. They have multiple subcontractors that they have brought to the table to work with us. And of those contractors, we've confirmed that there's about 20 electricians who live in Ava's service territory that would be prioritized for this work from a local employment perspective. Next slide, please. And the scope of work for this will be really full service, kind of direct install. So they will be, we will be finding and enrolling the customers and providing those customer enrollments to the contractor, to Franklin. They will then go to the site, evaluate the site, and confirm the ability to do the stove installation and removal of the gas stove. They will be supporting the customer, doing an analysis on the home to identify the kind of easiest ways to install the new electrical circuits and how well the home can take that new capacity at the service panel and from an electrical circuit perspective. They will then install some data air monitoring equipment that will then be in place for at least a couple weeks before they go out and procure the stove, install the stove, remove the old gas stove and cap the gas. And then after a couple weeks after the new induction stove has been installed, they will then go back to the site and remove the air quality monitoring equipment. So we get a pre and post sample of air quality within the home. And they're also providing project administration services, kind of managing the projects from start to finish. So we are bringing this to the board on Wednesday, and hopefully we'll get their approval to enter this contract and then get going with the next steps so that we can launch this program in the coming months. That's it.
Thank you, JP. This is what, from my understanding, is a pilot to understand the effects and the improvements, hopefully, of air quality in the home using removing gas stoves and ovens and monitoring it. So are there any questions online?
Yes, we have 2 hands raised. Local Clean Energy Alliance, recognized for 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Jessica Tovar, Local Clean Energy Alliance and the East Bay Clean Power Alliance. First of all, I want to say this program has improved since its initial inception. And for those in the room who are not part of this history, initially this was about $15 million worth of ratepayer funds that were arranged in a backdoor deal to give to the UCSF Benioff Hospital, and we had to intervene, as well as many members of the public, to get this money to be used to address energy needs in the community. So this is a huge improvement. I do think that there's a lot more room for more engagement on the design of this program. And where, like, exactly who are the homes, where are the homes in which this switch will be done in replacing the gas stove to an induction range. And then also there needs to be some cooperation in kind of pairing other programs so that all the gas appliances can get replaced with electric ones. And so I would like to see that happen, because what you're doing is, while you might be replacing the stove, if you have heating and a water heater that runs on gas, you're not really getting rid of the entire problem, right? And so I would like to see this be more holistically done. And I'd also like to see it done, you know, prioritizing some of the most vulnerable communities. If this really is about addressing indoor air pollution and addressing health and folks who suffer from respiratory, asthma, pulmonary disease, etc., in the home, then we should be making sure that we're reaching, you know, those communities, and specifically those that don't have the resources to do this otherwise. I can't emphasize that enough. I would like to see a lot more, you know, interaction with the community on this program. I think it would be a whole lot stronger, you know, if the agency actually communicated with all the stakeholders in the community on this issue. That's it. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Jim Lutz, you're recognized for 3 minutes. Jim Lutz?
Okay, I think I've got it. I have a big question, is sort of follow on of it to Jessica's, of how are the potential participants being identified and recruited? And another big one is, are renters included, particularly because low-income people are more likely to be renters than homeowners. So just a couple questions, Jay. Otherwise, JP, this sounds like a great project. I'm glad to see how it's shaping up. And that's it for me.
For Richard Estevez, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
Mute. I'm muted.
We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Rich Estevez with Quality Conservation. I think this is a very important program. I know the Franklin Energy people personally. They operate with a great deal of integrity and quality work. I do recommend that you approve this contract with one major change. And that has to do with the issues that have come up before, which is pairing this with other programs. The stove, the induction stove, is a great thing, but it uses 40 amps of power from the panel. Now, if you've dealt with low-income homes, you'll know that most panels are far less than that. These are small homes, these are old homes, these are homes without significant upgrades. They're homes where the customer cannot afford to pay for the extra paneling. So unless you are prepared to add a panel, you shouldn't be doing the induction stove at this time, because that's 40 amps. Most of these are in the 60, 70, even up to 100 amps. You will effectively close out any other electrification that's needed. For example, a heat pump water heater takes 30 amps. So you could never pair a heat pump water heater with an induction stove unless you have already upgraded the panel. So my recommendation is approve the contract with the stipulation that the panels be upgraded to 200 amps, which will allow future electrification measures for that home. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There are no further hands raised.
Do we have any more questions on that?
There are no further hands
Very
raised.
very good. Okay, we'll go with you.
JP, as someone who has run programs with indoor air sampling, it's very difficult, just as one of the commenters was making a comment. And when you said healthcare providers, are you going to be monitoring the people or the indoor air itself? Or both?
So for the pilot, we're just monitoring the indoor air quality. So we have a partnership with Berkeley Air, who's responsible for providing the equipment and doing the analysis from the data loggers that will be installed on site. So we have a separate entity that's going to be doing that.
So on military bases where we were doing the indoor air sampling, it was really difficult because people would have like aerosol cans and whatever was in their cabinets. There was groundwater contamination would come through it. So it's really hard to identify that it would be just that source, that's stove. But you probably already know this, but.
Understood. Thank you.
just thought I'd mention.
Oh, Cynthia.
Yeah, I would like to have JP respond to the public comment that the panels be, or panel be upgraded to 200 amps. Can you explain that? And it sounds to me like there's a capacity issue here. Or can you, do you think there's good merit to his comment that should be upgraded because, some of the buildings are not, they don't have that capacity and, they couldn't get the full benefit of the incentive. So if you could
Sure.
comment on that and educate me a little bit more.
I will. It's a very interesting topic as far as how we electrify homes, both single-family homes and multifamily homes, under the current distribution infrastructure that's in place, as well as service panels. We will be leveraging some of the work that our sister agency, Peninsula Clean Energy, has done. They've really done a tremendous job kind of building a workbook of how to electrify with a 100 amp panel and what are the options, the technology options. There's actually splitters now where you can prioritize one charge over the other. So like a heat pump water heater versus an induction stove, you don't always have to charge your water immediately. It's a big battery. So pushing that by 10 minutes, 20 minutes, if you're needing the full power from your stove, is one example of how you can actually kind of swap between two items. As somebody who has a 100 amp service panel and has almost completely electrified my home, as well as runs an electric vehicle off a single 100 amp service panel, I can tell you it could actually be done. And there are ways to do it. There are times where it can't be done and you have to upgrade to a 200 amp service panel. But that's also between $3,000 to $7,000 and can be up to $40,000 if PG&E has to run a new conductor to the home and say it's undergrounded. So that can be a very expensive endeavor as well. In this pilot, what we are going to be doing is evaluating kind of how to get these installed without doing a service panel is contemplated for the pilot. For the whole program, we are contemplating also including service panels once we start to ramp that up. But for the purposes of the pilot, some of the work that we'll be doing with Franklin is to understand what are the options that we have to electrify this single load without doing a service panel upgrade. We're not talking about electrifying the whole home at this point in time. The program is to electrify the cooking, which would be the range, so the stove cooktop as well as the oven. So we're taking all of the gas cooking out of the home. To one of the comments, I will say, the heating, water heating and space heating are vented appliances. In most cases, gas stoves are not vented. So you are dealing with direct indoor air quality that is in the face of the family while they're cooking. Your water heater is vented outside. Your furnace is vented outside, or at least they should be. There are certainly cases where they are not, but I imagine anybody here, even if you have a hood, raise your hand if you use the hood 100% of the time, every time you're cooking. So I certainly don't, and most people don't. So you are venting pollution into your face in that environment, and that's why we're trying to measure this. To a couple of the questions that were asked, this will be, the pilot is specifically for Carefera. Care and Ferris, so our low-income customers. And we'll be looking to support, homeowners and renters. If it's a renter, you will need to get the landlord's approval. We can't go and do an appliance swap out without the approval of the owner. So there is that additional step. And then we'll also be looking to kind of overlay our outreach efforts with our highest asthma census tracts. So it will be care with high asthma census tracts. If people come in from outside of those census tracts and they're still care, they will still be eligible for the program. So there's a difference between who we market to, which we can be very targeted with, and then who we accept, which we can be a little bit more open with, but we'll still have that low income attribute required to participate in the program.
Okay, great. Thank you, Peter.
Sounds like a great program, and it really seems to be done very carefully. One just curiosity question. How do you eliminate confounding variables in terms of testing the air, indoor air? Because there's so many sources from sofas or whatever, or plywood or,
Yep.
wallboard of other kinds of contaminants. How do you determine it's from the stove?
Well, so we're going to install the indoor air quality data loggers pre-stove
Pre and
swap
post.
out and post. And so then there will certainly be, windy days blowing, poor air in from the freeway. If you get a
Right.
bunch of those that's happening in the wrong direction, that will confound. But, the pre and post is our best attempt
Yeah.
to take out those impacts.
Very good. I have a lot of experience with indoor air quality. BPI, I'm an analyst, so I go in people's homes and I do test these stoves. The stovetops by themselves are better than the ovens. Ovens are awful. I can watch parts per million jump up to 1,000 parts per million of carbon monoxide in an oven, which is highly poisonous. Of course, we're not breathing it completely unless our face is in the vent, but it will rise in the ambient levels up to 10, 12 parts per million of carbon monoxide where people are breathing it. I'm interested in both that study with the parts per million, how you're going to equate that, say if somebody's near a power plant or a refinery or something, and those parameters. Also, if there's a smoker in the home, because if you have a smoker in the home, you'll see those numbers explode. So it would be good to be aware of those hurdles. Also, I'd be interested in hearing how the electrical, there would be an item in the study regarding electrical, say, how it works out with some sort of a collar or a management device, because that would be added benefit to this study to know how we can actually implement electrifying the cooking. And as far as cooking is concerned, in comparison with water heating, I can say that cooking, unless you're a chef and cooking for 20 people in your home constantly, water heating is a much bigger burden on your electrical demand than cooking. So, this is a great start. With that, if there are no further questions,
Hands raised.
I'd like to put it out here. Does anybody have a motion for maybe a recommendation on this particular item for the board?
I move we recommend approval.
So Peter would like to move for a vote to make a recommendation for or against?
For.
Okay, so we will put this to a vote. We have a second? Cynthia is seconding.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, Pete, we'd like to recognize you right now.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, as a new member, I just had a question because are we intending to vote on every item? Because if I recall, we did not on the previous item.
Oh, this is just for this item for the gas stove study.
Yeah.
Um,
I was just curious though. I mean, the previous item as well, was that something that there should have been a vote on, or?
If anybody had made a motion.
Well, I don't know at this point.
The CSC has the choice as to whether it votes
Okay,
or
so
not.
do we want to back up?
We've already.
Okay, we've,
Pass
sorry,
that.
Pete, what I would recommend is perhaps definitely documenting any concerns about the previous item that, before this particular item, and we will revisit it.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious because, I mean, I didn't know if a vote was being done separately from motions that were being held. That just as an administrative basis, that was very puzzling, and I feel that
Oh.
perhaps that should have been done.
I'm trying to follow procedure. This is my first time chairing a meeting, so I might have, I might have been remiss. But yeah, I did ask if there were any motions to make a recommendation for the board, and there were none. So
Yeah, it just that was unclear to me if that was the time to vote or not. So just if that could be made more explicit going forward. As a new person, I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Point of order, the CAC chair and the chair report can pass along the guidance that that the CAC has provided, either in, as an informational item or as the result of a vote.
yeah.
I see. Thank you.
So at this point, then, moving forward with this particular item, we do have a motion for a vote. So Adrian, can you proceed, please?
Absolutely, thank you. Member Landry,
Yes.
Member Bakusin, Member Weiner,
Yes.
Member Stevenson, Member Stevenson,
Sorry about that. Yes.
thank you. Member Lakshman,
Yes.
Member Carr,
Yes.
Member Harper,
Yes.
Chair Souza.
Yes,
Motion is approved.
very good. Thank you. So we will proceed with a recommendation for this item. And the next, we'll close that and move on to the Teresa McDermott's consulting services agreement with True North.
Great. Hi, thank you. My name's Teresa McDermott. I am the head of marketing for AVA. Nice to be here this evening. Thanks for having me. This will hopefully be a fairly straightforward one, so I didn't prepare any slides. The ask is for the board to approve this agreement for our marketing execution partner for our upcoming direct current fast charging program. So some background on the program. We've been developing a network of DC fast chargers to help support the state's transition to electric vehicles for some time now. And we're getting ready to launch the first station, which will be in the Oakland City Center sometime this fall. So because I know some members are new, the goals of this DC fast charging program are to specifically to serve, to provide access to charging, to good quality available charging to residents of multifamily housing and those people who live in kind of traditionally underserved areas. We also want to help support that California mandate to move to clean energy vehicles, to zero emissions vehicles. And so this is an aggressive and really wide-ranging program to to build a network of fast chargers. And as I say, we're happy to say that we're close to launching that first one in the fall. And so we launched last year a competitive RFP to select a partner or partners to help us define the go-to-market strategy for this network and to execute on both awareness and demand generating campaigns to drive utilization for the chargers once they're operational. So the result of that RFP, we selected an agency called True North, Inc. They are a full service marketing agency, dual headquartered in California and New York. They do a lot of great work, both demand generating, awareness building, advocacy campaigns. You might be familiar with a campaign that they did for the San Francisco PUC, the Break Up with Gas campaign. It was a very creative campaign to encourage people to cap their gas and move to all electric appliances. So they stood out head and shoulders above the competition, and we are looking forward to moving forward with them for a 2-year agreement. It's a mixture of fixed and variable costs to help us both define kind of the audience strategy. So there's some research components to this, develop creative campaigns, and then build and execute those campaigns in partnership with us at AVA. So you can see the breakdown of the projected costs on the second page of the memo. There's some kind of, we call them fixed costs. Those are things associated with their fees, with research, with project startup, but the bulk of the costs are variable, and they are associated with actually advertising and driving demand for those stations. So the variable costs vary depending on how many stations we bring online. So if we're successful and we're doing a great job putting steel in the ground and getting these stations online, we will see our actual expenses on the higher end of that. But that means we're going to be bringing reliable clean energy charging to lots of people throughout our service territory if we're actually at the upper end of those limits. So as I say, we wouldn't normally bring something like this as an action item to the board because it is kind of a, something of a foregone conclusion that this is an activity we need to take, considering we're building this network and we have to drive demand for it. But we know that, the NTE amount that we're seeking is a large number. So we wanted to provide transparency and the opportunity to ask any questions about that. But we are looking for the board to vote to approve this contract so we can get started with them and make sure that once we are ready to turn the power on at Oakland City Center, we are ready to start driving EV chargers there and also beginning like a campaign of educating and attracting, people who are EV curious, who maybe would not have adopted because they felt that maybe they weren't going to have access to high quality and available charging. But now that they see that we're building these charging sites in densely populated multifamily housing areas and downtown locations, they're going to be more kind of motivated to go ahead and swap to an EV. So I'd love to take any questions if there are any questions about this proposed agreement with True North.
Adrian, do we have any questions?
There are no hands raised this time.
Nobody? Okay. Anybody? Yep.
Repeat question, but should I just assume from kind of here on out that this is only inclusive of the current AVA service territory in terms of who the campaigning is or strategizing is being developed for?
Yes, the advertising, the advertising outreach, well, actually, you make a good point. Our main target for this, would be residents of our territory. We do recognize that some of the folks that might come to our chargers are people who commute into our territory, but they would not be a primary target of the outreach that we do. So we wouldn't be like kind of proactively spending money to attract people from outside the territory, but we would be in our messaging being explicit about the fact that these assets are available to people who are, commuters into our territory or people passing through.
And Teresa, if I can add, so
course.
so the chargers themselves, they have a 2-year development timeline. So these first chargers that are coming online are representative of the cities that have been a part of our service territory for the last couple of years. So we are looking at opportunities to expand and work with new cities that are joining our territory to identify additional sites. But the development timeline on these is pretty long. So we've had these site license agreements with, our current cities for a while now because we've needed that. So I think from a Stockton, Lathrop, and unincorporated San Joaquin County, hopefully, those will be areas as well that we'll look to expand into. But for this first 11 sites, those are within Alameda County.
That makes sense. One last thing to add to your point, Teresa, around thinking about customers who might not be, or I'm sorry, folks you would be advertising to who are not customers of AVA, because a lot of folks commute in from the Central Valley to the East Bay for work. It might be something to kind of think about a little bit for sure. And if there's subcontracting opportunities for vendors with local expertise, Stockton, San Joaquin County, Modesto area is a pretty broad base of people coming to and fro over the Altamont.
Great. Well, we are undertaking as part of this scope that's already been approved, a pretty comprehensive research process to really help us define our target customers and personas. And so it certainly isn't out of the question through this research that we do identify those folks commuting into AVA from kind of near our territory as core audiences that we want to talk to. So we are taking a research-driven approach to defining our marketing targets.
Thanks.
Very good, thank you. Do we have any further questions regarding this? Will it be, I have a question. Will these also be perhaps available sites, walkable sites, or near public transportation so people can get to their jobs?
Well, you have the absolute expert in the room there with you and JP, but I will say that yes, the siting strategy for the program overall is, to as I said, to kind of encourage the adoption of EVs. So you'll see that the sites are in densely populated areas around multifamily housing, and in other instances, sort of right in downtown areas. And we anticipate with True North, coming up with an outreach strategy for the businesses in the communities that surround our chargers, to encourage people to use the local businesses, and to encourage the local businesses to refer people to our chargers, because they're delivering 100% clean energy that's locally, kind of locally controlled by our constituents. So yes, the chargers are sited in municipal lots and lands and garages that have been we've partnered with our municipal our JPA partners to identify the sites and get the land. So they are absolutely in walkable downtown areas in a lot of instances.
Very good, thank you.
This is Vijay. Are there any agreed upon pricing between for the customers? How much is the True North going to charge, or?
True North is an advertising agency. Are you asking how much the charging itself is
Yeah,
gonna cost?
right.
No, but part of the work that we're doing right now as with our go-to-market strategy work is a pricing kind of analysis looking, we have another partner who's helping us kind of look nationally and locally at pricing norms and help us develop a pricing strategy that's, takes into account our needs, our supply, and our goals with the program. So we have not defined pricing yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
There's one hand raised for public comment. There's one hand raised for
Okay,
public comment.
very good.
Jim Lutz, you recognized for 3 minutes.
And when I find the unmute button, a quick question. I don't know if it's for JP or Teresa. Is there any way of tracking who is using the chargers? So can we get an idea if the people using the chargers are, their cars are registered in that neighborhood or they're commuting in from Tracy? Is that possible, and is that going to be done?
JP, do you want to take that one or do you want me to?
Sure, yeah, I'll take it. So that will depend on how the customer is interacting with our system. So if somebody just pays with a credit card, which is kind of the easy way that people pay these days for fuel for their vehicle, then we won't get that information. We'll just get the last 4 digits of their credit card. But we also have the opportunity to build an app that would be similar to the other charging providers. EVgo, Electrify America, Tesla, as a few examples, have apps that people can pay through. And in that scenario, then we would have a name and at least a name and an address for that customer, and we could see if they live within our service territory. So depends on the payment mechanism.
One question, Teresa, do we expect a payoff? I'm trying to read the chart, and I'm sorry, I'm not very good at it. For these chargers, will there be some sort of ROI?
Well, absolutely. This is not a pay for performance contract that we're seeking with True North. However, the reason we are even contemplating bringing on a demand generation partner is because we are incented to, kind of reach targeted thresholds, in terms of revenue with these charging stations, not because we want to drive a huge profit, but because kind of becoming self-liquidating or slightly better than self-liquidating is going to allow us to continue to build more and more sites, right? So, the goal is to build as many sites as there is demand for to continue to grow adoption of EVs. And so to do that, we have some upfront money that's been kind of approved by the board to allow us to get started. But after we exhaust those funds, the sites need to be self-sustaining. And in that sense, we want to make sure that we're driving demand at a level that allows us to kind of make them, revenue neutral to slightly positive so we can continue to build out the network.
Great, thank you. Cynthia?
Yes, I have a question, Teresa. How are you deciding customer demand and the location?
The location, you mean where the chargers are sited?
Yeah.
As JP mentioned, that's a kind of been a longer term process that we're conducting in conjunction with, our partner cities and municipalities. So, we're not going out there and buying land. We are siting these in, as I said, existing parking lots, existing, street sides, existing city garages, where sites that have been identified in partnership with our member cities that, they feel would benefit from having this type of infrastructure. So That's how the sites are being determined. And I apologize, I forgot the first part of your question. Could you repeat it?
That's, I think that's, well, I was just curious. What I heard is there was some board input on the locations.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Hey, I'll take it, Teresa. So yeah, we've been working with our cities to identify municipally owned lots and garages where we can site these chargers. And then we've done an extensive mapping exercise to overlay the available sites with high-density multifamily housing, as well as retail amenities, transit locations, and otherwise. And so that has then kind of identified the prioritization of the sites that we have planned to develop. Then we have to go to PG&E and see if we can get service. And sometimes PG&E tells us yes, and sometimes PG&E says you have to wait 10 years. And then, so we need a large list of sites in order to develop. So the siting process takes quite a while, but as Teresa said, we've been working closely with our cities to identify those sites and then look at these other attributes so that we can focus our developments in areas that are going to assist the most people to transition to electric vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions?
Are there no hands raised?
No other questions. I would like to ask for any motions on recommendations for the board.
Move that we approve this suggestion.
Okay, we'd like to put it to a vote. Anybody second?
I'll second. Oh, we got 2
Oh,
seconds.
okay, you have 2 seconds. Okay, we'll have Davis second.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Member Landry.
Yes.
Member Balkowski.
Yes.
Member Weiner, come back to him. Member Stevenson.
Yes.
Thank you. Member Lockman.
Abstain.
Abstain. Thank you. Member Carr.
Yes.
Member Harper. Yes. Chair Susan.
Yes.
Thank you. And the motion is approved, and Member Weiner is not present. Motion's approved.
Very good. Okay, with that, we have a new item coming up in front of us. The apologies. The resolution for the Board of Directors of Ava Community Energy Authority to negotiate a consulting services. Oh, that was the previous one. Apologize for that. So we're at the supplier diversity and overview with Joseph Sitt.
Actually, Joseph isn't here, Chair. To the Chair and members of the committee, my name is Stephanie Sean. I am the regulatory case manager for the General Order 156. We'll be referring to that as GO56. The GO56 was defined as the Utility Supplier Diversity Program. So if we could start going through the slides, please. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Next slide, please. So the supplier diversity is simply put, it provides business opportunities for people of disadvantaged communities, women-owned businesses, LGBTQ businesses, business owners, disabled veterans, minorities, or disability-owned organizations. So that's how we are defining supplier diversity for the sake of this presentation. This is an informational-only presentation, so if you have questions, we can ask them at the end, or if you have recommendations, we can talk about them at the end, please. The purpose of the supplier diversity is to increase the work diversity for AVA contracts. And as far as the reason the CPUC created this is to increase visibility in minority businesses contracts with utilities and CCAs. Next slide, Adrian, please. And that's Adrian here. Can we continue to the following slide, please? I know that guy. You do a lot of jobs. So the GO 156 and the CPUC Supply Diversity Program. Here's a little history about it. The CPUC's Supply Diversity Program was adopted in April 1988, and it really was to increase procurement with utilities and later on with CCAs. Again, as I previously stated, minority groups is the focus. And one of the ways they monitor this program is through a supplier clearance. Next slides. Next slide. So let's move over to Prop 209. So Proposition 209 prohibits California public agencies and institutions from considering sex, race, color, ethnicity, or national origin in selection of contracting. So what that means is AVA cannot and will not ever make contractor vendor selections based on any of those considerations we previously mentioned. So how we do support the Prop 209 is through education and awareness, outreach to increase diversity groups to participate in the CPUC solicitations and their clearinghouse, through diversity certification of vendors and through existing contractors that are part of the CPUC supplier clearance to subcontract with subcontractors of the supplier clearinghouse. Next slide, Adrian, please. So for the AVA 2023 Supplier Diversity Report findings, we have 4 certified suppliers, and our spend with them was $225,000. Those 4 suppliers consisted of 1 woman-owned business that provides office goods, a woman minority-owned business that provides regulatory consulting, a minority business that provides printing and mailing services, and an LGBTQ-owned law firm that provided legal services. Again, our local spending for for 2022 to 2023 was $4.7 million. And for small and local spending, it increased 18% from 18% to nearly 40% of net procurement for 2022 to 2023. There was a drop in some of our spending because we switched up one of the vendors. We just needed somebody that provided the service that we need, and there was not a minority or supply business that solicited or that was selected. Some of the program activities that we participated in to increase our supplier diversity was board and AVA staff engagements. We are doing more work with other CCAs in the CPUC to collaborate on ideas and ways to reach out to supply diversity businesses. We are reaching out to chambers, other associations, sponsorships, grants, other small programs, technical programs, and utility business assistant programs supporting diversity communities. So we are trying our best to reach out to communities to bring the attention of supplying need businesses. Adrian, can you change the slide, please? You should, one more slide. I just did that one. Sorry for the confusion. Okay. So our 2024 Supply Diversity Plan is to reach out again to more community grants and sponsorship programs, local and workforce development programs like youth education programs. We're looking at ways to reach out to those programs and those communities. The CCA Collaboration and Diversity Outreach, there we meet, we talk about ideas, ways to reach out, data capture and information processes, and ways, and then promote the CPUC Supplier Diversity Program. So those are ways we plan to continue, and also part of our 2024 supplier diversity plan. Next slide. So here are a few of the highlights that the CPUC recognized for CCAs for 2023. The CCA commended, the CPUC commended CCAs for their ongoing commitment to supplier diversity. Currently, the CPUC is collaborating with CCAs and organizations in the energy industry to discover solutions, offer guidance, identify best practices, foster engagement with diversity suppliers, and cultivate relationships with ethnic chambers and various local business organizations. So we're really doing what we can to reach out and try to draw minority, disadvantaged, and small businesses to the clearinghouse, the CPUC clearinghouse, and then also get on their database list. And then that would allow them to do more business with CCAs. The CCA quarterly, and then also we're having CCA quarterly meetings with the CPUC to just improve our relationship with them and just build stronger relationships and report details that collaborate relationships. Wrapping it up, next slide. Just kind of repeat what we already said. The CPUC has supplier diversity program that AVA executes through reporting business activities. And then again, AVA cannot choose contractors based on the Proposition 209s. And then our findings for our 2023 report was 4 certified suppliers with a spend of roughly $225,000. AVA's local spend in its jurisdiction for 2022 to 2023. And then on our website, you can find more information about supplier diversity, our reports, and how to become a certified minority or supplier business through the CPUC. At this time, I am available for any questions that people may have at this time. Thank you, committee.
Wonderfully presented. Thank you, Stephanie. Do we have any questions?
Yes, there's one hand raised. 2 hands raised. Local clean energy.
Can we, sorry, apologize for this. Can we have 2 minutes for questions right now? Thank you.
Hold on 1 second. Okay, Local Clean Energy Alliance, you're recognized for 2 minutes. Recognized for 2 minutes.
Hi, this is Jessica, Local Clean Energy Alliance. It's a shame that we have to abide by some of these old, I'll say it, racist propositions. One of the things that we've advocated for heavily is really to use SLEB, the small, local, and emerging businesses, recognizing that we need to really uplift, you know, those types of businesses within our communities and give them the opportunity to get contracts and work out of this transition that we've been advocating for. And so I wanted to just uplift that and recognize that there's so much more work that we can be doing. And then one of the other things I'll add on top of that is working with community-based organizations and your constituency that you serve, that you sell electricity to, and actually, you know, coming back with returning, you know, community benefits or returning the investment into community benefits that address energy needs of some of the most vulnerable communities within the territory, folks of color, etc. So I just wanted to make that comment. And I was glad to see Bladell's on the list. We also support them and been supporting them when they were under another name. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Lutz, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
My question, and I guess is, it looks like this doesn't cover the main business of our community energy, which is purchasing energy and the energy attributes. So would it be possible to get a supplier diversity report on the actual procurement of energy, of the contracts that give us the energy and the attributes that AVA's in the business of providing? And that's just a question and a suggestion, and that's it.
Thank you. There are no further hands raised at this time.
Is Vijay going to speak, or did anybody else online? No?
There are no
Oh,
further
okay.
questions.
Well,
No further
Cynthia
hands
would like
raised.
to
Yes.
ask a question.
Just briefly, I would like to echo what Member Lutz mentioned. I think it's important also to capture statistics in terms of diversity of energy suppliers. I think that's also important. Are you capturing those statistics now?
We prepare annually a procurement report. And I believe it's public on our website.
We can follow.
We can follow up.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is separate then from from this particular program.
Yeah, this report is for any contract or procurement contracts or contracts we procure throughout the organization, not necessarily just energy. It's any kind of consulting services, products or services that we purchase, things that throughout the entire organization. Okay. Ergo consultant coming in to work with us.
Very good. So
If they meet the requirements by the CPUC. For supply diversity reporting.
Well, I mean, I do see that the spending has tripled, which is good. Cynthia, did you want to see something along the lines of supplier procurement diversity? Is it possible to crystallize those numbers?
That's what this report is. This is our diversity supplier report.
Just asking.
Yeah. If there's a separate procurement regarding actual usage of energy or something like that, that's a different report. Is that what
Okay.
you're
Well,
alluding to?
Yeah, I that's all I was asking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is.
You
the supplier
answered.
diversity.
That's fine. Thank you. Okay. So that said, there's no further questions. I'd like to ask if there are any motions for recommendations for the board.
This was an informational
Oh,
item
this
that
was
was
informational.
presented
Sorry,
to the
my
board.
Apologies. So let's move on to, what was the next agenda item? I'm sorry.
Future requests, to place items on agenda.
Very good. Okay. So at this point, if anybody would like to have agenda items for the next meeting, can we have any requests?
Chair Souza, if I may. Over here.
Oh, there you are.
I think what Member Landry was asking for would be the type of thing that you might put for future, since it was a separate supplier diversity related
okay.
issue.
Yeah, that would be good, yes.
Great.
And since you said that it's throughout the organization, I don't want to make it, but I think we should look at it organizational.
Right. if I can make a friendly amendment to that, if you get a report like this that says $225,000 triple spending, it doesn't say what percentage of the total expenditures it is. So if we could just get some more holistic picture of what the budget is for various things, just so we have some idea of what we're.
For which things?
Well, I gathered that the diversity spending we're talking about was the entire out of the entire budget except for energy procurement, right? So is there just a way to get a view of what our budget is and what the breakdown is?
There's a way to get a breakdown of the budget, but in terms of supplier diversity specifically,
No.
of the budget?
I think maybe where does this fit into the entire world of the budget? Where does diversity, how do we measure up as far as this particular, what we just, I'm sorry, I'm tired, but.
Yeah, so the supplier diversity report that was just presented wasn't specific to energy contracts. It sounded like, and maybe I was misunderstanding, but it sounded like Member Landry was asking more about energy contracts specifically. Okay. And then you're asking about comprehensive?
What I'm asking is, on the budget you're comparing the $225,000 to, is this 10%, 1%, 0.00%?
Oh, okay.
How do we know how to think about it?
That we should put that for a future item, and we can compare that to the budgeting item that's going before the board in May.
Okay. I'm never not gonna ask more.
Yeah, no, this is not a actual budget. These are contract spend. So based on the service, that is how we come to the total of the 225,000.
I got it. No,
Okay.
I understood that. I was trying to compare it to the overall spend. So you know we're spending 1% on diversity contracts or 10% or.
Gotcha.
You know, what does it look like? And there may be areas where it's difficult to do. I don't know.
I think we could present the information very easily once the budget is finalized, which is coming up in the next month.
Never mind.
Yeah, you certainly opened up our minds to that, and that's a good thing. The question of how diversity is enacted in Ava Community Energy. So thank you for that.
Thank you. We're always looking for ways from the committee and the board for ideas on how we can enhance our outreach as well.
We will discuss this in a future meeting, the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, any future other items that we'd like to discuss next meeting?
You were, I think, asked a question about the funding direct solar to low-income homes. Is that something to put on the agenda? Well, we're talking about the incentivization for the solar tariff, SPP. Would we want to?
Solar and storage program?
Right.
Yeah.
And we were talking about
Does that come into-
incentives versus that program. I'm wondering, do we want to agendize the discussion about something specific related to direct funding of
Yes.
solar?
For the solar, Ava Community Solar,
billing plan?
yeah, the net metering.
Right, the net metering, but something specific because.
Very good.
I don't exactly know what that means.
Yes.
When you agenda.
No, I understood.
Very good. Thank you for capturing that. Is there anything else that we would like to discuss next meeting?
Is this PG&E nuclear allocation definitely on the agenda next time? Number C10, staff announcing including these requests places item on the agenda. Are those definitely next meeting?
Oh, the nuclear allocation.
Because that'd probably be a whole meeting.
That will be, I think we were discussing
Yeah.
that as well, and the CAC term assignments. Did we need to revisit that, the CAC term?
No,
assignment?
we,
Yeah, I don't think the second one was. Okay. No. So it was just, we do
we'll
need to.
bring it up. We will present at the next meeting.
At a future meeting.
Yeah, that'd be.
But so the nuclear
Great.
discussion was informational for the board.
That one
Yes.
is the nuclear, the nuclear,
The allocation.
subject.
Yeah, so the nuclear allocation is going before our board this Wednesday as a discussion item, as an informational item, and then presumably it will return for action. And then the CAC will get to discuss it before there's action taken.
So if we're going to make a comment, we can make it after.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, it is a little beyond the time that, so we're getting late. And that said, is there anybody else that had anything online for us? Are we, any questions, any hands raised?
There are no hands raised at this
Very
time.
good, very good. So at this point, I'd like to thank everybody and thank, again, our board members for feeding us. And I'd like to adjourn this meeting. And it is now, I can't even read my clock. It's 8:47, and we'd like to close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done, Jesse.
Thank the new members.
Yes,
A lot of
and
good
thank the new
discussion.
members.
Good discussion.
You know, it was
Really, a lot of good discussion.
Kind of exercise our,
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks very much.
the procedure.